The crown prince walked into the throne room and called out for the emperor. He shouted for his father, announcing that his proud son had finished his mission and returned. He said that Adrian and the Reinhardt family were finally destroyed. When he noticed the room was empty, he looked around and wondered aloud why no one was there. The hooded man beside him also looked around and noticed a bloodstain in the corner. The prince guessed that the enemy had reached the gate and asked if everyone had escaped. Clicking his tongue in frustration, he complained that soldiers should stand their ground even if it meant dying. Then he relaxed a little and said that after defeating the Reinhardts, they should hang those who ran from the palace upside down. At that moment a voice interrupted him. Adrian spoke, asking who the man was and calling him Prince André. André recognized the voice and shouted that it was Duke Lawrence. He became angry and demanded to know why Adrian and his people were already there. Adrian ignored his shouting and turned away. André began to call out for his father, but before he could finish, a green aura sword flew toward him. Before he could strike, someone caught it between two fingers. The sword stopped right in front of André's eyes and he was terrified. It was the hooded man who had saved him. The hooded man twirled the sword with his finger and said the war was basically over. André, trembling with fear, fell to the floor and made frightened sounds. Adrian, surprised, realized that the man had caught Arch's spirit sword. Adrian activated his all-seeing eye ability and saw the hooded man's information appear in a blue window. Name: Blake Rugel. Title: Lord Master. Race: Dark Elf. Age: 852 years. Affiliation: Dragonland Grey Mountains, Chief of the Blackwood Tribe. Abilities: Aura top, Physical ability top, Learning ability top, Intelligence mid, Command mid, Mana mid. Traits: Heart Sword, Observational Eye, Environmental Camouflage. Relation: Indifferent, Hostile. Status: Annoyed, Astonished. Adrian then introduced himself as the Lord Master. His companions were shocked that Blake Rugel had blocked Arch's attack so easily. Marquis James asked in disbelief if he was truly a Lord Master. Adrian confirmed it and said Blake was equal in rank to Grand Duke Lucas, who was a Ninth Circle mage. Adrian thought to himself that this man was a trump card that could change the war. Blake Rugel commented that Adrian was sharp-eyed. André, still panicking, asked what had happened to his father. Then one of Marquis Quan's followers escaped from a masked man and ran to André, shouting that his majesty had been murdered. The follower cried out for revenge and urged them to kill the enemy. André, unable to believe it, turned to Blake Rugel and begged him, calling him Duke Russell, to destroy them. Blake Rugel summoned the sword out of thin air and agreed, saying a promise was a promise. Archa prepared to fight while carrying Elder Iris on her back. Elder Iris looked worried. Archa then put her down and rushed forward to attack Blake Rugel. Adrian shouted her name in alarm. Their swords clashed, sending powerful shockwaves through the air. Archa struggled against Blake Rugel's strength. He told her she wasn't bad but was still rough. He then slashed one of her arms, shocking her. Adrian stared at her in horror as she looked back at him weakly and called his name. The mage in their group told him to run, but Adrian just watched as Archa's bloody body collapsed. Filled with rage, he gasped and used his magic staff to form several high-level magic circles. He thought that now was not the time to hide his true power. He used revive magic to bring Archa back to life. Blake Rugel was surprised and removed his mask. He rushed toward Adrian, saying that acting as a healer at such a time meant he must be asking to die first. Elder Iris, Marquis James, and the others called out to Adrian in shock. Archa shouted his name as time seemed to slow for him. When Blake Rugel's sword reached Adrian's neck, Adrian thought he was about to die. But the sword suddenly stopped. Blake Rugel seemed confused and muttered, asking if it was him, then said no and looked again. The status window changed. Relation: Interest, Neutral. Status: Go Servina, Interested. Archa moved in front of Adrian to protect him, and Blake Rugel lowered his sword. Adrian asked if the fight was over. Blake Rugel sheathed his sword and said he could not kill the descendant of a benefactor. Speaking calmly and almost cheerfully, he added that he had come to handle a problem but had instead found an interesting connection. Adrian thought that the benefactor Blake mentioned might have been Grand Duke Lucas. When André saw Blake Rugel's change in behavior, he shouted angrily, demanding to know if he intended to break his promise to the royal family. Blake Rugel said that a promise was a promise. André replied in agreement, but Blake added that humans didn't always keep their promises. André asked what he meant, but before he could finish, Blake Rugel cut him cleanly in half from afar using his aura. An Imperial guard cried out for the prince. Blake Rugel said that it was a gift. Adrian, shocked, thought that Blake had not only broken his promise to the Empire for his sake but had even killed the prince, the one he had promised to help. A furious Imperial guard rushed at Blake Rugel, shouting angrily. Blake glanced at him and killed him instantly. Then he said that it didn't seem like the right time to talk. Elder Iris screamed in terror. Blake Rugel turned to Adrian and told him he looked confused, promising to visit him properly another time. He said they would talk calmly then, and with that he disappeared. Everyone stood in shock. The heavy pressure from Blake Rugel's aura vanished. Marquis James dropped to his knees exhausted and said he hadn't even managed to swing his sword and felt like his life had been shortened. Adrian said that heaven must have helped them. Marquis James agreed, adding that since Blake Rugel had said he would come back, Adrian should stay strong. He told Adrian that the victory in the war was entirely his achievement and that he should enjoy the glory. Scene change. Outside the castle, Magic Era 20XX, July 4th. The capital of the Quasan Empire had completely fallen.